Dustborn has quickly become one of the most memeable games of 2024, with a story about manipulating your friends and lying to get your way. Instead of owning up to their failure for missing the mark, they have taken the path of joining with games journalists for a united message to the people that are displeased.
You are racist.
So let's talk a bit about a common theme we see in some of the worst game studios. I will give you my recommendations as a game developer on what an average consumer can do about it. Hey gang, I hope you all enjoyed your Labor Day weekend. Mine started out at 7 a.m. on Saturday with my youngest telling me that he didn't feel well, and I got to wash all my sheets as a result. I wasn't sure if it was something that he ate or if it was that he read the statement out of Red Thread Games about how the reason that Dustborn failed wasn't because of being a terrible game, but was instead because of all of you guys. Shame on you. Now, first off, I don't condone anyone harassing anybody for any reason. I don't think you should send threats. I don't think you should make personal attacks. I do think it's perfectly fine for you to give feedback if there's a product that is bad, like Dustborn. And when we look at Dustborn, that's a bad product. So here's your daily reminder for anyone that doesn't get this. Bad feedback, it is not hate speech, and it is not harassment. And if you think it is, you're an idiot. Now, this is America. At least for those of you that are watching this in America. And here we can tweet about whatever kind of garbage games and memes and like whatever we want at any point. And it's great because we got that freedom of speech. For those of you that are watching this out in the UK, you can tweet, just make sure that it's factually accurate or they will throw you in jail. For some reason or another, we have reached a point with a lot of these game studios where there are these game developers where when they get bad feedback for their games, they will think that they are some kind of exception and that they shouldn't be given bad feedback. They shouldn't be told that they made a bad product. None of this is fair. And then they go out and they make a big stink about everything because fundamentally they forget that games are a product. Games are not an exception to that rule where if people buy or spend time on those products, they get to complain about those products if they suck. If there's a product that looks awful, people are going to make fun of it. I think of like the shaky weight. If you ever saw that back in the day where it was just ridiculous, people made fun of it because, yeah. Now, if you waste people's time or money with a bad product, buyers are going to be upset. It's tale as old as time. For example, if I have a sandwich shop and that sandwich shop serves sandwiches that are filled with shit, yeah, there are some people that are shit eaters out there, but by and large, people are going to be upset at that sandwich shop. It's a bad product. That company is going to get memed on all over the internet. People are going to say, don't buy it, it's a bad product. That company goes under. That's the way it should work. That is capitalism. That is perfect. That's great. However, when it's a game company, you've got these people that make a game that is shit, put it out there, everyone looks at it, they talk about it, they all say that it's bad, and then suddenly these game developers are like, oh no, this is a torrent of hatred and abuse. Can you believe this? All these toxic gamers are telling us that we made a bad product. It would totally have sold if it just wasn't for those toxic gamers, as if somehow there were the modern audience that were there ready to press the buy button on Steam, and then the modern audience was like, oh no, someone's at my door. The toxic gamers are banging on it saying, if you buy that game, I'm gonna, I don't know, say mean words to you. It's stupid. It's super stupid. And you've got these devs that then go out of business and they're like, oh no. And then the games journalists will come out of the woodwork and say, it's the gamers. How dare the gamers do this? Can you believe these terrible gamers? Gamers are the problem that's wrong with the games industry. It's the most unhinged garbage that you can find. I don't know of any other industry where you see this kind of total disconnect where suddenly 90 to 95% of your audience is your enemy. And when people put out something bad, instead of just saying, oh, well, you missed your mark and, that's that, do better next time, suddenly they will stake their careers on the line to attack everybody. It's absurd. Now, if you make a bad product as a game company, most of the time you lose your job, right? A lot of these game companies, they have the worst of the worst. What they'll do is these idiots will flock together where they will come in, they think they're special, they hang out with each other, they, huff their own farts and saying how great they are and how special and how unique they are. And they build this echo chamber where that's always them. They know what's right. They know what they need to do. They understand what average people want. Average people want a game about a main character that abuses the people around them and manipulates them to get her way. Wow. Oh, amazing. Why didn't we think about this in the past? We didn't think about it because it's a stupid idea. You could put it out there, and if you put it out there on the indie market as like a solo game, it would just get lost in the woodwork. No big deal, right? And when these idiots flock together, for bigger studios, they either get fired eventually, or they realize that they might get fired and then they move on so that they can leave on their own terms. Some places will let them stay kind of forever and just let this cancer rot inside those studios. And I'm sure if you've paid attention to some game studios, you could think of some examples where you look at them and you're like, wow, yeah, that makes sense. This studio here, writing went to shit and has never gotten better. This studio here, this particular department's quality has just gone to garbage. A lot of these game companies, they have extremely poor leadership skills. And part of being a good leader is to know when you need to terminate somebody. And in the games industry in general, you have a lot of people that become leads and become managers, and they want to be your friend first and foremost, and a professional second. And when you get that kind of setup, you build an environment where you can't really critique someone for their professionalism because you're like, man, I really just, I play games with them in the evening and yeah, they're being kind of a douchebag, but if I say something, it's going to ruin our friend group with these other people that work here. So let's just let it pass. And then you have this unprofessionalism festering where I would say the biggest issue you see in this unprofessionalism is where you stop thinking about the consumer. If you think you are special as a game developer, you can be special and make a solo game. That's fine. The indie space is great for that. But if you're at a bigger place and you think you're hot shit and you don't have to listen to your consumers, you don't have to care about them, you could find a focus group that just matches your personal beliefs so that they tell you what you want to hear. But eventually your game has to come out and it has to make money. And if it doesn't, well, whose fault is it? It's your fault. It is your responsibility as a game developer to take some introspective and say, where were we wrong? And how do we make it so that we're not wrong in the future? So that even if that game company falls apart, you have that personal knowledge and you can take that to the next studio you work for. And another big issue with a lot of these people that have this terrible mindset is games journalism reinforces it like nobody's business. So they get in there, they hate the consumer, they don't like the people that they're trying to sell their game to, they're very vocal about it, and then they look at these articles on IGN or Kotaku especially, where they're like, oh yeah, no, you're totally right. It's toxic gamers. No, you're just bad at your job. That's all it is. And people want to be your friends instead of your leaders, so they don't tell you you're an idiot that's bad at your job. Because if you're not willing to take responsibility for what you're doing, it doesn't matter what job or career you're in, you don't get to excuse that. It's just basics of being a professional in a career. Enough of me ranting about Dustborn for a quick second. Let's talk about what consumers can do to stop this kind of shit. And the biggest thing that you guys can do as people that are consuming this, myself as well, is to just talk about it. When this stuff happens where these games come out and they refuse to take responsibility, they want to blame gamers, or they want to say that if they get bad feedback, that it's not because of them, it's other people. I've had some things where a game gets released, it gets panned, and then people are like, oh, it's because of racism. And then at the same, in like another tweet or two later, they're like, but you can't be racist against white people. It's like, race isn't a part of this at all. And that statement is racist. None of that matters. The product is what matters. If the product is bad, that's the end of story. So when we all come together and we say, these are bad products, do not buy these products, that is good. That is how it should be. That is capitalism at work. We have the ability to take games that are bad, write a bad review for those games. People will see that. It's a good game, especially if it's a good game that's like an indie space game. If you give them a good review, that goes a long way for them. And while we've had a lot of AAA slop or quadruple A slop coming out, the indie scene's been excellent. So if any of you are out there and you're consuming any of these indie games that you really like, a good review goes a long way for those studios. And it helps bubble those games up so that other people that would be interested in them can get them. Because if we all just were to say, fuck it, let's just play a bunch of really rad indie games for a couple of years and not buy all this garbage that we're getting out of these major publishers, we're going to stop getting garbage out of major publishers. Because when the investors say, oh, there's no money making this trash, what if we just made games people want? We'd get good games. We'd all be happy for it. I'd be happy because the games industry would have a stable job market again. And we wouldn't have this thing where every release leads to hundreds of layoffs because the games are just trash. The consumers, myself included, wins because we get a bunch of good games. You can't lose if you have a bunch of good games. It's a total win-win scenario. So the sooner we can get to that spot where the investors are the ones that start demanding good games, the better. And it gets there by us making these statements, these videos, reviews, because those numbers go through to those people, and that's all that they see. All they see are numbers. So when they see games like Dustborn failing, Concord failing, any of these other things, they're going to say, okay, well, what's being successful right now? Yeah, this whole thing is absurd. And it's really unfortunate to see that there are game studios that are still just unwilling to take any amount of personal responsibility for this garbage. But that's all I got to say for this topic tonight. If you enjoyed the video, you could sub for other games related content, but otherwise I will hope to see you all in a future video. Farewell.